It is Tuesday, the 23rd of January, 2024. It's just gone 8:30 here in the UK time. And my name's Criztoz, creator of 45 Day. This is the 45 Day Show, episode 17. And I've got a very special guest tonight, Bearded Beats. We'll be finding out a lot more about him in a few minutes. But if you're watching this back on YouTube, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's free to be up to date with all the shows. If you're listening back to Mixcloud, give us a follow. It's all free and it helps us build. So please enjoy the show and hopefully you'll find something of interest in here. So my special guest today, someone I've connected with relatively recently. I'm aware that he's been doing vinyl and obviously putting on events and sort of is in Worthing, which is sort of about an hour or so down there. So we've had a chat and I'm going to go to DJ at one of his events very soon. So it'd be great to have a chat and find out more about him. So without further ado, it is Bearded Beats.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Obviously, I can see you're wearing an Always Ballin' t-shirt, and we have got Jim Bob here in the house. So, welcome in, Jim Bob. A great, a brilliant company. I've got one of the Jim Sharp ones they did, which is the Doom Sardo. I think that was them. But yeah, but we got Scotty Boy as well. Scotty Boy's been on the show before. He's my good friend from Edinburgh. But yeah, so I thought it'd be great to find out a bit more about you before we obviously meet in person for the first time. Which is happening next month. But yes, I ask all my guests because I'm really interested to find out about who got them into this passion, because it is a passion that we all share. Who first got them into it, and is it brothers, sisters, parents, friends? So for you, who was it who first got you into music, and what sort of age were you then?
So I would have been about like 6 or 7. So my mum and dad had a very busy social life. So every Friday night I would be dropped off at my nan and granddad's, my mum's mum and dad,
Right.
and they lived in the middle of nowhere, and there was nothing to do. They had a dog and a field, and I used to just sit and go through my granddad's record collection because he literally would sit there. He was the sort of guy that used to be able to pick up an instrument and play it. He could
Wow.
play trumpet, trombone, piano, anything. He was one of those guys. Never did it like professionally or anything, but just played. He's unreal. And I really got into sort of just going through his records, looking at the stuff that he'd got. Like it was all like bebop and sort of old sort of jazz funk. And it kind of blew my mind. I used to
Yeah.
sit there and listen, like, I had this one album, like a Louis Jordan album.
Right.
I used to love listening to, and it was always on. And weirdly, I was at the Allergies gig at Jalapeno Night in December.
Yeah,
And
in
Money
Brighton.
Shot, yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Money Shot dropped Saturday Night Fish Fry by Louis Jordan.
Wow.
And I had this proper moment where I was like, no one else everyone loved it, but no one else knew what that song was. And I was like, holy shit, where did you find that? But yeah, so it was my granddad. I mean, he'd try and teach me to play. I was useless at instruments. Like my mum and dad had me on like guitar lessons and stuff, and I got as part I don't think I ever got past sort of Three Blind Mice. That was about my limit on musical instruments. So yeah, but it was
I mean,
my dad.
it's a skill, isn't it? It's a skill like anything else, and people either have it and want to do it, or they don't. But what's most amazing about that is like December 23, you're hearing a record at an Allergies gig that is taking you back in time, and in your brain, you must have been right back there, sort of that age of 6, listening to this record, and that's an amazing thing that
I
music has.
was with my brother-in-law. I was with Cursor and Tim from Suckside.
Yeah.
And I literally stood there, and they were like, they could see I was beaming, and they were like, they couldn't work out that moment for me was just like so huge. I was like, oh my god! So it's kind of full circle. Yeah, odd.
Amazing, and it's great that it's from a really young age. Like 6 is pretty good. I mean, it's the same with getting my daughter into playing records and doing music, just getting them into it young, because I'm sure, like you, it's been an amazing journey so far. That music's been a big part of our lives, and it's amazing where we've got to. So it'd be interesting to see how things go down. we've also got a couple more people to say hello to before we carry on. We've got DJ Fade. I know he's coming down, I think, in April to Worthing. Is that right?
With Sam
With
Tweed.
the Welsh 45 King, Sam Tweaks. Say hello to Scotty Boy as well. And we said hello to Double P. So, yeah. Thanks, everyone. Nice for joining us. We've got to the point where we found out about how Bearded Beats first got into music. The next stage, I think, is buying records yourself, becoming a sort of collector. When did that kick in?
Secondary school, mainly. I'd say I'd had a few my dad used to take me on building sites on weekends because he was a plasterer, and he used to take me on, and he'd give me sort of cash at the end of the weekend for like burning things at the end of a garden or like moving things to the van. And I had a really good friend at school called Tim, and he used to come in weekly with his like Sony Walkman, and he'd have the latest hip hop stuff. And I never know where he got it from. Never ever got a clue where he got it from. But he used to have the best collection. And I would just sort of sit there. He'd make copies for me. And then I started sort of just going to like, there was a long player record in Tunbridge Wells in Kent. And it was a tiny little record shop. And I used to go in there, and I was the kid that used to hum to the record guy.
Okay.
Yeah. And he'd be like, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about, mate. And I'm like, yeah, you have. And like, I think once I sang an MOP song.
Right.
And they never had any hip hop. But I started finding little bits of funk and soul and little bits of other stuff that I would just listen to, or he would just chuck on the deck and go, well, this is quite good. And then I'd sort of buy it. I'd take it home. My mum and dad would hate it, which made me love it. And it would just sort of build from there.
Did you have to, okay, let's pause there for a second. So did you have your own record deck in your room at that time, or were you having to play it on the sort of family system?
Play it on the family system.
Right. So obviously you probably only got a limited amount of time to play it if your mum
It's
and
a
dad
short
didn't like
It's
it.
a short window because, you've got to fit ABBA in and, a few other crackers just for the Friday evening. And yeah, it was a short window of time, and I will always remember my dad walking in and seeing me attempting to scratch.
Right, on his deck.
On his deck.
Right.
It was a red vinyl 45 of the Liverpool FA Cup football song.
Right.
Try scratching that. Yeah, I mean, well, I couldn't, but it was an absolute, yeah.
And why were you doing that? Had you seen someone do that?
No, I just picked it up from there was like a few tracks that I'd heard. You could just tell that was kind of what was going on. And and I had a couple of mates at school that were really into it. And we were all like discussing scratching and mixing and all this sort of stuff at the time. And then I remember there was a documentary on one night on telly. I can't remember what it was, but there was Grandmaster Flash on that. And that's when I started probably playing with vinyl a little bit too much than I should do on a Sanyo record deck.
Because they don't have the best needles or the best tone arms or the best.
No.
Probably a belt drive as well. I imagine.
I tried adding a belt on with an elastic band once, and that didn't really work out either.
Right. But I mean, again, it's interesting. Obviously, you brought up Grandmaster Flash, and obviously, I'm sure he inspired a lot of people.
Yeah.
And here we are, a lot of us on Twitch DJing. And recently, literally relatively recently, Grandmaster Flash is now on Twitch as well, doing sets. It's amazing that it's still a relevant platform for someone that deep into the sort of hip hop game, isn't it?
Very.
I'm going to say hello as well to DJ T-Cow. Good day. Good morning. It's he's in the future. It's Wednesday in Australia, in Sydney.
Excellent.
So he's joining us. He's one of our regulars on Coffee and Donuts and a really good friend. And he came and met us in Brighton. And he might be back this year, actually, I think, possibly. Ooh. So obviously, maybe get to meet him further down the line.
Someone's come down, yeah.
Yeah. So that's your sort of first taste of sort of scratching and sort of buying records. Yeah. When does it get to the point where you start DJing or perhaps get your own set of decks to start playing around with?
Well, it was a long time later. I got at 16, I left school. Dad did the classic ultimatum: work for me as a plasterer or go and get a job.
Right.
I decided the latter, and I walked around Tunbridge Wells until I found a job, and it was in a 7 Oaks hi-fi shop.
Okay.
So it was great. I mean, I was in my element. I walked in, I knew nothing about what they were selling. The guy went, "Could you, do you know what you're doing?" Yeah. He said, "We'll start tomorrow then." I was like, "Fine." And I was there for 2.5 years, and I absolutely loved it. And that got me into sort of playing with audio and mucking around with setups. And we used
Right.
to have a demo room. One of the guys that used to work there, I mean, I shouldn't probably be saying this about something like that, but one of the guys used to work there, used to set up the demo room and then smoke weed and listen to Bob Marley all afternoon.
Right.
It was one of those it was a pretty flexible place,
Yeah.
but it was a wonderful place, and I learned a lot
It was
about
a
music.
different time.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
But
And I
yeah.
really enjoyed working there. And then I kind of had enough of that. I'd started working in bars in Tunbridge Wells, and then I really wanted to sort of pursue the bar trade because that was what I really enjoyed. And there
Okay.
was like music was involved and, fun and parties. So a good friend of mine was running a bar in Camden. And I phoned him one afternoon and said, "Do you need bar staff?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Have you got a live-in job?" And he went, "Yeah." So off I went from Tunbridge Wells with my little suitcase and turned up in Camden. And a week later, I think I had a mohawk and combat trousers. And
Yeah.
I was working in this bar. And at the end of the bar was two 1210s and a mixer in a single
Amazing.
coffin. And Friday nights, it was sometimes used. The guy I knew didn't really know much about that sort of stuff. He didn't really know much about putting on events. So me and another member of bar staff called Eric, who I'm still mates with now, he said, "Well, let's just learn to DJ and we can put on nights ourselves." And I'd always wanted to learn. And there was a record shop directly opposite us. And we used to go over there and spend like 50p on bits of vinyl just to learn. And it was great. I mean, I remember after about a year going and buying a mini disc player and recording our sets. And I'm still to this day amazed that anyone was in that bar.
What? Because have you listened to them back?
They were awful.
But awful in terms of what? Are you sort of clashing when you're trying to mix, or just bad choice of music?
I mean, I went straight in. I wanted to be a breakbeat DJ.
Okay.
I don't want to learn anything else. I just wanted to go straight in and be a breakbeat DJ. And it wasn't good. And it went on for a long time. But I finally kind of started messing around. We had a DJ called David Charles. And David Charles was unreal, like house DJ. And he used to play ours, and then he used to do like Fabric and other stuff. And he would come down on a Friday night and just literally rock the place. And I used to just stand behind the bar watching him for hours.
Okay.
And then one night I remember him staying on afterwards, and we all sat there and played. And we took turns going back and forth, and we had record bag swaps where you'd blind pick back-to-backs.
Interesting. Okay.
And it was just so much fun because me and my mate were buying 50p records from a record shop. So I had 9 to 5 Dolly Parton in my bag.
Right.
So I'm dropping in like the intro to 9 to 5 over like, God knows, probably Royksop at the time or whatever. Like, but it was all over the place. But I just really got into that kind of moment of finding the right place and the right drop and bringing little bits in and playing with it more. And that's where it kind of started for me. I mean, and then being in Camden at the time, you've got Finger Licking Records were above bar vinyl in Inverness Street. And underneath was a shop called Vinyl Addiction. And me and my mate Eric used to go in there every weekend. And we felt like those guys that used to go into like the shop in Human Traffic. We were so out of place.
Right. Okay.
But we knew what we wanted to buy. And we'd go off on little missions into Soho and end up in like Black Market Records and places like that, just buying stuff. But yeah, it was a fun time. Camden back then was amazing. Like our bar was 5 minutes from Camden Palace.
Yeah.
My mate had a flat opposite Camden Palace, and we used to DJ out the window to the crowd queuing to get into Camden Palace. And there were times where people used to hang back, I will say.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm going to say hello to a few more people we've had in. We've got Shoestring Sound, who I spoke to last night on part of my journey. We've also got DJ Fade, I think I might have said already. Damon McDonald from Cambridge, welcome in. Whispery Mermaid, welcome to the show. Yes, I mean, again, a very different time. But, like you say, Camden I'm assuming sort of 90s. Is this
late
late
mid
90s?
mid to late 90s.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Camden
you know,
was. I mean, it's still good now, but it's perhaps a little bit more gentrified than it
oh
was
man,
back then.
back then there was, like we'd get invited to squat parties,
Yeah.
and they were the original sort of like proper squat parties where they were like derelict buildings. But the way it was going was like 2 years later, we'd still be attending the squat parties, but we'd be being charged to get in.
Right.
There'd be like actual door staff and bar staff. These things were
Okay.
just growing and growing and growing. And they had like some of the biggest names that were playing at the time around that area were playing these squat parties as well. So it was a great time to be in Camden. I think it's kind of where I got the bug for putting on parties as well.
Yeah, because that's the other thing, isn't it? I mean, DJs. Well, there's so many different variations, isn't there? There's people who
Mm.
just literally do gigging DJs, but I think for most of us, we've all started by putting on our own events. I know I did mine. I
Yeah,
was like, right, okay, well, at the moment, no one knows who I am. No one's going to book me or anything. So you've got to get out there, start putting on your own events, so people then start to get to know who you are, and then collaborate and build and all the rest of it, like the rest of things.
yeah, I agree.
So when did you get to the point where you're wanting to put on your parties?
I moved pub, so I took a pub on in Dulwich, and it was a tiny, well, not tiny actually, it was a massive pub, but it was in a kind of residential area. It was not what would have been like a community sort of old London boozer.
Right.
And the company I worked for, the bar company I worked for, they were very into sort of like taking places and turning them into like cocktail bar-y sort of pizzery places
Yeah.
with a later night venue sort of idea. And it was a big place. And I had my guys that we used to sort of formed a little crew within in Camden, and they wanted to play. So we were like, we put on this night called Thank Funk It's Friday, cheesy as fuck, cheesy
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
hell. But it was one of those ones where you're like, it works. And people came, it got bigger and bigger. And we had like we had a New Year's Eve one that went on till 4 a.m. We weren't allowed to, but it just carried on.
Yeah.
We had weird little events where we had like a room upstairs, which was kind of wasn't allowed to be used, but we used to clear it out and have like a backdoor entrance. So like when the pub closed, everyone
Yeah.
moved upstairs, and those sort of events got bigger and bigger. And then
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
afternoon, I had it was back in the day where people used to bring you a demo CD.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And I had these guys come in. They said they wanted a DJ in the Rosendale in Dulwich, and I'm like, "Have you got a demo CD?" And they said, "Oh, we don't at the moment, but you can come down and see us play at Fabric on a Friday." And I was
Right.
like, "I'm sorry," and it was the Scratch Perverts. They
Amazing.
literally lived round the corner from the pub and used to drink in the pub, and they were like, "Let's just play here." So that place
Amazing.
got its own little weird kind of microcosm of Dulwich, which was also growing at the time. Like East Dulwich was becoming really popular. Like Brixton, you're just off the cusp of, and it was just a great area to be in. And we were really lucky with. I had some really cool DJs that used to have. They had like one guy that we used to like DJ with us. He owned the biggest rig you've ever seen. I don't know
Right.
how it was just ridiculous the amount of equipment this guy had. Like we're talking massive subwoofers and stuff in this pub, and our nights just went ballistic down there.
Yeah.
So it was good. It was good fun. That was when I really got the bug for like putting on an event.
Yeah. And it's putting on a party effectively, isn't it?
Yeah,
Rather than it just being like a regular thing and a regular night, it's like,
yeah,
let's make each event different, unique
yeah,
with either the DJs or the decor or the location or, the music styles or whatever, so that people remember it.
yeah.
So it's not like your next generic house night or your drum and bass
No,
night or whatever. It's sort of varied. So where did it sort of go from there then? I mean, obviously putting on these big parties.
it just kept going to the point where I was doing the same guy that used to own the pub in Camden. His mum and dad owned a massive marquee hire company. We
Okay.
then
Yeah.
started. He would then put on. They'd have balls down in like Hadlow in Kent and all this sort of stuff for like big private schools and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And we were always first refusal for DJs. which
Okay.
was quite nice because we just get involved with these massive events, you know. And we were playing. It was almost like the rave culture, but they were like for like posh private school kids. It was kind of weird.
Like a controlled rave environment.
Controlled rave. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
in a marquee with a bit of carpet on the floor.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
mud.
But I
No
bet they
mud.
still had a great time because of the music.
The atmosphere on those things used to be amazing. You know, I remember playing. My cousin did a night, and it was the Millennium Night. And I
Right.
remember playing that one, and it just had the most random mix of age ranges in one marquee in the
Yeah.
middle of like the Kent countryside. But it was phenomenal because just everyone there was there for the same reason.
Yeah.
There's like, you know, and there's just an amazing vibe. It didn't really matter what you played. It was one of those ones where you could drop anything and people would just go mad because like one person would be like, "Oh my god, I love this song," and the crowd would feed off that sort of atmosphere, and it was beautiful.
It's amazing hearing you sort of describe this because a lot of this is sort of echoed in what we've been doing as DJs on Twitch. Because again,
Mm,
we've all started from nothing and you know other platforms as well. Um, but it's interesting again to see how it's sort of grown. And like you say, you can play pretty much what you want, but then the crowd are sort of feeding off it, and it
yeah,
just sort of builds and builds and builds, doesn't it?
yeah,
And
without
people
a
are
doubt.
there because they want to be there and they want to have a good time and they want to have this sort of shared experience
Yeah,
through music
yeah,
and the environment that you're providing them with. Obviously, here on Twitch, we're broadcasting, and obviously, you know, we get fancy lights and you know get our record collections behind us and stuff like that. But if you go to an event, you want something different and good decor. And interesting lights and all the rest of it as well. So, how big a part is that as well for the events you've been doing?
for the events I've been doing recently, with this sort of, you know, where I am right now, my whole sort of ethos behind these ones was the fact that art and music are the same thing, you
Yeah,
know, and I wanted to kind of echo the old 80s vibe, 70s, 80s vibe of like hip hop and art being in the same building.
yeah,
And, you know, with Nick Exhibit, like his stuff is all quite raw and, you know, it's taking the chip shop, it's taking it like, you know, Coco, places like that in London, Jazz Cafe.
oh
So
yeah,
you've got that real kind
classic
of
venues.
raw, yeah, beautiful venues, but with a real kind of raw edge to them.
Yeah,
And that's what I wanted, especially for the first one with like Cult 45 Boys. I wanted that vibe, and it works. And it really, like, so far, what I've planned out over the next 12 months, which is
yeah,
quite scary when I think about it. It's because like one event finishes and you literally just press go on the next one. You're like, oh
yeah,
god!
yeah, yeah,
But it works. It's got like people down here have worked out already. You know, there's people walking into this coffee shop now, looking at this art and going, oh, "Hang on, this is something bigger. This goes on to like an
yeah,
event afterwards or an event beforehand." So yeah,
yeah. It's definitely the way to go, and we'll watch a quick little sort of photo montage about it first. But what I found most interesting last year about the events that I did, we did the
mm,
We Love 45 events, is the ones I did in particular in Cambridge with Mischievous, because we were going to do just a music event, and then she was like, I've just found this skateboard company, not skateboard company, a skate shop in Cambridge. And
mm,
then she'd met a load of artists as well. And so at the event, they all designed these seven misters, they called themselves seven misters, using Posca pens, skateboards, and a
nice,
little exhibition. So we had like a little exhibition as part of the event, and then the skate shop had built like a 4-foot skate ramp, so then the skaters were out there as well.
nice.
But it's bringing all these little communities because music's one part of it, but like you
Yep,
say, the art and photography and paintings and whatever it is
yep.
also so intertwined with music, isn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, you know, look at, we've got Ben Kavanagh's the next show. You
Yeah,
know, mural graffiti almost. His stuff is big, bold graffiti style stuff. The one after that's Dan Lish. You know,
yeah,
we're looking at classic hip hop artists, pen sketch stuff. It's beautiful stuff. You know, like, but it's one of those things. I'm not going. By the way, this sounds like I'm going very hip hop. It's not all about hip hop. Like, there's different like vibes throughout the year. The
yeah,
summer will be quite sort of Caribbean, that sort of esque as well. So yeah, but it's just marrying those two things up and trying to not force them together, but make them play off each other as well.
Yeah. I mean, as DJ Fade says, culture breeds culture.
Yeah.
And one of the things he's been doing is DJing at a skate event, roller skating event in I
Yes.
think it's Stroud as well. So again, seeing that connection with music, hip hop music, and sort of skating, is again interesting. And then you've got people down in Bristol, Funk Addict, I went and played last year. They're really pushing the breakdancing. So they're doing their first breakdancing competition as part of the event. So,
Yeah,
you know,
something I want to get.
we need to get there, don't we, really? So you've got the music, you've got the art, breakers.
With
Did I
that,
see let's play this little video.
yeah,
And then obviously if you want to talk through some of the stuff that's going on in there. So let's go from here.
so yeah, this is the art
Exhibition.
from the exhibit. The night, it was just a really lovely vibe. Cursor and Elroy, Colt 45 played an absolute blinder. Colm had a great night as well. He was there till the bitter end. Absolutely loved it. Nick's stuff, I think, is just very, very, as I said, raw, and it just works with the first event because it was kind of not shocking, but people were like, "Oh, hang on, this is a bit
Yeah.
different," and it's that's what I wanted to show. And like married up with the Cult 45 boys, they had such a great night, and they were unbelievable on the night. To be fair, we had a big, it was a good crowd down here, and they were just up for partying. But I think the Cult 45 boys started with they start with No Scrubs TLC.
Yeah.
And Curtis,
Is that the sucker side?
yeah, and
Yeah, yeah,
Curtis
yeah.
was like, he always starts this, and I was like, he went, I don't want. He goes, but look, and literally everyone went from the bar
Yeah.
straight to the dance floor. It was hilarious.
And that's, I mean, yeah, we'll pause there for that for a second. But I think as a DJ, and especially as a vinyl DJ, I think, more DJs should do that.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, yeah, the last DJ's been brilliant, but that's him. You don't need to necessarily mix it into the DJ because it's not like a
no
house night
way.
or a drum. So it's nice to say, right, here you go. Here's like an intro tune, or here's like a tune that's
Yeah,
going to grab the attention
yeah,
of the crowd, and then
yeah.
say, right, okay, we've got a new DJ. Let's go and check this guy out or that girl out. And
I
yeah,
did a gig. I did a gig over in Cheltenham for a really good friend of mine. The festival's called Good Vibes Only,
yeah,
and
oh yeah,
they had a summer one and a winter one. And I've known the organizer for years, and we were really good friends. And he wanted to put a winter one on, and they've got this amazing place in Cheltenham called Dunkerton Cider Farm, and it's this
yeah,
beautiful indoor like bell tent, unreal venue. And it was me, him, me, then A Skills, then Ashton from Freestylers.
wow,
Hell of an event. But
yeah,
I finished my set and I was buzzing, and I
yeah,
walked off, and I think Skills must have dropped about 15 songs by the time I got off stage. And you
yeah,
could see everyone there was just like, oh my God, because he just draws them in.
yeah. He's amazing. I mean,
Unreal.
yeah, we had him at the Cambridge event.
Yeah,
He's sort of one of the headliners, and he was playing 45, so obviously it's different.
yeah,
But even that, he kept going, "Oh, you guys, you're all playing 45s all the time. I'm not quite there." And then he's dropping these 45s, but the skills are just like, you're like, "Come on!"
yeah. He's
And it's
unreal.
really, it's amazing what you can do with pretty much charity shop style sort of records.
Yeah,
Because he's not sort of like a massive 45s collector, because obviously he doesn't need to
no,
be, because that's not his skills. But
no,
the stuff he's got is cheap,
yeah.
and it's great.
But in his hands, it's ridiculous.
And that's where the DJing skill comes. And obviously you
Mm.
get to someone like Coco, and
Oh,
then you
yeah,
watch him DJ, and he's got the skills, but also he's using this not ridiculous format, but like crazy sort of small
yeah,
format when he doesn't have to, and he's pulling off these things. So it's amazing the skills that these DJs have that we're able to be part of these days.
yeah. It is unreal to watch. But yeah, he blew my mind. I mean, I've seen Skills before. I'd seen him even recently in Worthing. But to walk off stage and watch him suddenly just kick in, you were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, unreal, unreal. Great guy as well. Such a lovely bloke.
Yeah, it's wicked, and it's a privilege that we can be part of these events and
hell.
also get to sort of meet them. And at the end of the day, they're still DJs, aren't they? You know,
This is the thing. Like, you know, back in Camden, I went to Vinyl Addiction, the record shop in Camden, and bought Tricker Technology. You know, 30 years later, 25 years later, I'm stood next to him on stage, and I'm like, this is weird. Like, we're having a beer afterwards. It was just so odd, but they're just you know, these people you spend a little bit of time with these people, and you pick up so much.
Yeah. It's that positive energy, isn't it? You know, they're sort of the positive energy that feeds off them. And the fact that they're open to say, you know, if you ask them a question, they'll be like, yeah, this is how I do this, or this is how I do that. And it's the same with records now, isn't it? You know, we're like, if someone asks you what a record is you're playing, you tell them that, because it's like, yeah, you go and buy it, you know, because this is what I'm doing with it. If you go off and do it, let's see what you're going to do with that record. Especially if you've got some turntablists and, you know, the beat jugglers and all the rest of it, they might hear a record that you're playing that they think, okay, I can do a routine or something out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously it's learning from all of us, isn't it?
Yeah, sharing the love.
Okay, we'll come back to the events you're doing now in a minute. But obviously there was a period of time when you'd sort of stopped. And I think when we first sort of connected, you were like, oh, I'm just getting back into it. And, you know, there's been a time off. So talk us through what was going on at that period of time in your life.
Pandemic probably is the biggest bit. Like, so going into pandemic, right up till then, events were going well. I'd got a couple of bars in Worthing. I was doing some stuff in Brighton. You know, I was doing lots of other like parties and private events and stuff. It was going really well. Pandemic kicks in. I've got a 1-year-old son. My partner, you know, is working full time from home, so I'm stay-at-home dad, but completely staying at home. And I got offered to do like a corporate gig. I got offered to do some other bits, and I did the corporate gig, and it killed all the passion out of DJing for me within about 30 minutes, because all the people were in their little boxes, and all I could focus on was the one guy making a cup of tea. And I can still see him. He's still making that cup of tea. And I'm like, you're not loving this. If it was a club, he'd have been off to the toilet and I wouldn't have cared. But because I could see him, I don't know what it was. It just, the vibe, I just lost it. And I just couldn't do it. And I started doing like some mixes and stuff, and then just didn't get into it. And my little one, it's really hard at the time because little one was rattling around or he's having naps. So I didn't have any place to actually like do my stuff, and it just killed it for me. So I had a lot of time out over that period. And to be fair, it was my mate over in Cheltenham with his festival when that kicked in, and he said, I want you on the lineup. I was like, yeah, all right then. Okay. I'd missed it so much, you know, I'd missed just being out there.
How long had it been then? So from that point when you played
a couple
of years. Okay. And were you, obviously you weren't DJing out, but were you DJing at home? Were you doing like bedroom stuff?
I wasn't playing. I was just listening to music constantly. I was still in my mind. I was still digging. Like I'd hear stuff, I'd make notes, I'd take stuff down, I'd buy stuff. You know, I would still be out there, but it was for, I don't know. I think that was just for like playing it at home, listening to it, thinking about what I could do with it. But in the back of my head, I was constantly thinking, I really want to do this again. I really want to do this again. It was just having that moment where someone went, I want you to do it. Yeah. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. And then I thought, I need a warm-up gig for this.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it was a festival. And it was like, I was playing, I think I was on just before, no, Crafty Cuts was 2 after me. So I'm like, well, I definitely need to warm up. So I went and played a gig over in Horsham, Brolly Brewing, brewery. Brilliant place. And I DJ'd off the top of 2 beer barrels with a piece of wood. Really hard.
I think that's what we had at Matt Baylor's 45th last year, because I think we played at a brewery, and again I think it was beer barrels.
Like, wood. If you got something I can set up on, they went, yeah. And I got there, and no disrespect to them, they were the best guys, and they were lovely hosts. But yeah, it was 4 kegs with 2 planks of wood. But the thing is that
They vibrate.
If it had been one plank of wood, it'd have been all right. But because there were 2 planks of wood, it just kind of just coasted the whole night. But it was good fun, and I really enjoyed it. And I just played whatever I wanted to play. There was a good atmosphere. And I think about, it's 2 weeks later, I was in Cheltenham on an actual stage with a huge sound system.
Right.
Which was a bit kind of like shock to the system. And then I played the after party. So I had the one where I did the 5 p.m. set and the 1 a.m. set. And that's a horrible day.
Yeah.
Because you kind of
5
got
p.m. and 1 a.m.
ish.
Yeah.
And it was. And that
you're
was
going to build yourself up again for that later set.
And that's when I literally went and bumped into. That's when I met Fade and Tweaks.
Right. Okay.
I sat down. They were playing inside the bar area of the festival, and they were going back to back on 45s.
So did you know them at all before?
I'd liked a lot of Tweaks' stuff.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. I'd seen a lot of his stuff come out. I'd heard him on the Allergies podcast. I think I'd messaged him a few times. We've been chatting, but then like bumping into him, sort of seeing him live with Fade. Kind of me and my brother-in-law just sat there and watched them for about an hour.
Yeah.
It blew our minds because it was great. That day the headliner was Nicky Black Market and people like that, and it was amazing to watch. But then for me, sitting in that bar, watching those 2 guys behind some decks with some 45s was what I wanted to see.
Yeah, it's straight. Obviously, we sort of live and breathe it. And obviously we're constantly seeing our DJs. But I was talking about this, I think, the other night. I can't remember which of the DJs I was talking to, but we were talking about DJ Coco, and I was like, we've seen him online, you've watched his videos, you've seen his routines and that, but then when you actually see it in person, and you're sort of standing sort of a few feet away from him, watching him doing it, is something else. And it's the same with Sam and Fade. I've DJed with both of them, and I've seen them, millions of hours on Twitch, but it's still something else to stand there and watch in real life in 3D what's going on.
Completely. Yeah, it was just some of the stuff he was playing, and like Fade as well, and then just the artistry of what they do and the way they do it. And Tweaks makes it look blooming, like literally like so
easy.
Simple. It's just easy. And his little hands are going, and you're like, Jesus Christ. He's unreal. I love both.
It's amazing to have seen the sort of evolution of that as well, because like he said before that he'd never done like doubles on 45s before, sort of Twitch and sort of live mashups and stuff like that. So it's been amazing to see all of the DJs, everyone on Twitch, to sort of grow and evolve and go from there. Just say hello to a couple more people. We got Don Champ Sound. Good morning, Don. You should definitely check out his Instagram. He's been doing, I think, pretty much a loop a day and a beat a day. And he's been really concentrating on that, and obviously catch him on Twitch as well. And we got Benny Goggs as well, another Worthing family. And he says, following Fade is not much fun. So, and welcome in Dreddy SRS. Welcome in. Yeah, we're talking sort of DJing and stuff like that. So that's great. So then what were you playing? Were you playing 45s at that point, or
at those events?
Yeah.
They were full digital stuff. It was one of those ones where I was literally just playing and going crazy, and it was more my mate's festival. It was easier for him to have 4 CDJs up on the main stage set up instead of like other stuff. So I was like, I'll play whatever. I enjoy playing. I don't really care. I love playing 45s, but to me, if I can play anywhere, I don't care what I'm playing as long as I'm playing my music.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be fair, like you can get. I love being quite creative on like CDJs as well. It's fun because you can muck around a lot. But to me, it still weirds me out to walk on to like a little festival stage or anything like that with one USB stick.
Yeah.
It never feels like you know what you're gonna do next, because where's all your bits?
Yeah.
Where's my bag I want to hide behind? Like, you know what I mean? It's that kind of like, what, I'm stuck here. And if this one USB stick doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I'm okay. I'm assuming you've got a second one with you.
I'm backed up. Don't worry.
Okay, right. So that's that point. That's fine. But obviously, then yeah, this is the 45-day show. But this
Yeah,
year, we're certainly looking at other digital stuff. And I was talking the other
yeah,
night. My daughter loves playing 45s, but she wants to play more digital stuff so she can play like the music she's into, which isn't on
yeah,
45. But also you're talking about playing tricks with sort of CDJs and stuff like that. I mean, it's completely different to what I listen to, but I love James Hype, the stuff that he's doing.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, have you seen much of his stuff?
Not a great deal. I caught some the other week, actually, funny enough.
Yeah.
And it was one of those ones I probably made a note in a book somewhere that I
Yeah.
need to watch more, and then have a 5-year-old son that wants to go to street dance lessons and all the other things. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's definitely one I'm gonna have a look at.
Definitely check it out. If you're doing tricks on CDJs,
Yeah.
see what he's doing, and it's completely different sound to what we listen to.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think it's important to keep an ear to what the new stuff is,
Yeah.
as well as the old. I mean, I know we play as vinyl DJs, we play a lot of old stuff,
Yeah.
a lot of old music. But that's because there's a lot of good music that was made back then, wasn't it? Because
Yeah.
your
Oh,
events are, I think you said to me it's going to be soul, funk, hip hop for the February event that we're doing.
completely. Breaks, whatever you want, but funk soul
Yeah.
hip hop is pretty much the standard for the next 3 events, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going with what the visual artists we've got on the walls. I think they fit the best. And to
Yeah.
be fair, there's a real scene for that down here. Like in Worthing, like when you mention it, people are like, "Oh, okay." And like being based, these events being based inside the Audio Active building as well.
Yeah.
These guys, there's a lot of youngsters that are like, "Oh my god, I want to come," because they want to see guys playing on 45s. They want to see old hip hop. They want to see that sort of stuff being played.
Are they? I don't know. I'm gonna ask you actually. Are they 18+ events or are they all ages
They
events?
are 18+ events, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I
It's
guess
a tricky
anyway.
one because it's
Well, I guess
because
any other way to do it is have it potentially up to a time period where under 18s are allowed. We've done that in Cambridge. Actually, we had the 2 venues we had. You could have under 18s because we had the 45 kids, some of the kids DJing.
yeah, which I love that.
We had that under sort of till about 8, I think, PM, and then obviously the kids had to go.
Yeah,
So yeah, so I mean, again, that might be a way to sort of do it,
that's
or
the thing. I
do a
mean,
daytime thing potentially.
this is a possibility. I'm thinking like for the summer. To be fair, for this place,
Yeah,
I was thinking more of like an all-day event on like a Saturday, where we had like food stands outside in the
yeah, yeah,
street. You could really, really go for something because this place is an amazing event space. It's such a nice event space,
yeah,
and it's got so much possibilities.
yeah. And it's good that they're open for this sort of stuff to happen.
Well, this is it. I mean, it was completely potluck. I
Yeah,
messaged Audio Active. I was putting on because I do some volunteering work for Superstar Arts, which is an art charity based
that's
in
right.
Worthing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I was looking to put on an event to raise money for them at Christmas, and I just wanted a place that would let us have the space for free because I
yeah,
wasn't going to pay out any money. Every bit of the ticket money went to Superstar Arts, and that was it.
yeah,
And I managed to get Suckerside to come down and DJ
yeah,
for
yeah.
us. And it was these guys were like, "Yeah, go for it, it's yours." And after that, I was like, "These they had bare walls, and it was like you knew there was so much possibility here." And I was like, "How about a monthly art thing?" And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Well, you get art for a month,
Yeah,
you get an event put on, which brings you customers to your bar,
yeah.
you get free art for the month, and in a month's time, you get new art." And they were like, "Yeah, great," and that was it.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, because they get, and it's also promotion for them, isn't it?
Yeah, because then it gets people through the door as well.
Yeah,
If the art's up, it's definitely, and it's just continuing, isn't it? It's not
yeah,
like it's leaving that legacy.
yeah,
You've put on the event, it's leaving the legacy for that month,
yeah,
and then people will come back the next month because there's something different. It's effectively an art gallery, isn't it? A monthly
yeah,
art gallery.
yeah.
Um, and it's great that there's spaces that you can also have music because obviously venues are getting sort of very thin on the ground after
Oh,
sort of COVID, aren't they? And is that something that you've been found is a problem?
really hard because I mean, I secured a little place over in Chichester called the Crafty Bishop. It's a little like bar,
Right.
craft beer bar on the side of the NCP car park in town.
Yeah.
And they approached me and they said, "Will you do a gig?" And I put on a night over there, and it was a great night. It was lovely. It was a summer night. There was lots of people down there, and they said to me, "Oh, we've got the 4 times a year we're allowed to close the NCP car park and turn it into like a festival." And
Right. Okay.
my eyes lit up. I'm like, "Yes."
Amazing.
And then they booked me for December, and then about 2 days before, they'd had the council on the phone, and they went, "You can't have any more live music." And
Right.
that was it. So I think these places that have got these little ideas, but then someone comes along and just goes, "Nah, this is not happening."
Yeah. You're
And
not having
that's
your
a
fun.
shame. Yeah, no fun here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a real shame because, even like Chichester's got a great little art scene as well.
Yeah.
So nights like that, like the Wax Cartel guys that play over there, they put on some great stuff.
Yeah.
It's a real shame that we can't build on that. But I'd say Worthing, because it's arty and it's becoming more artistic, they will embrace this more, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I think Worthing's in an interesting location, isn't it? Because it's got a lot of people moving down from London who are going to Worthing because they don't want Brighton's just too overpriced. So then going down to Worthing, and then obviously you've got people moving from Brighton across. And these are people generally who've perhaps had a family or whatever, and then obviously then wanting to move down towards the seaside or somewhere a bit more reasonably priced. And those people still want to enjoy culture, don't they? That's why things like this are going to work, I think, because you've got the right people in the right place.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you've only got to look around. Like half the businesses around here are like arts, little pop-up art venues and little places, and it's the culture is very much they want that. So they want art and they want music, and they don't want the same thing. Like I'm not gonna bemoan Worthing, but when they have their festivals and stuff, it is normally a Gary Barlow tribute act.
Right.
There's a lot more you can do in this town.
I know. I mean, it's something I've struggled with here because it just doesn't quite get going enough. There's not enough culture.
No.
Enough culture people in Eastbourne where I am. So hence I've had to go to other places and do stuff like in Brighton and around wherever. But yeah, so it's difficult. So the venues are sort of becoming less, but it sounds like you're definitely onto a good thing there.
This has got great potential, to be
Yeah.
fair. I mean, I've met with the owners of the Beats and Eats part of the business.
Yeah.
And they love what's going on, which is great. Like, I've got full backing, which is lovely. And it's just how far we can take it, really. It's not a big venue, so
what's the capacity?
It's only 100 people, but 100 people in a nice sized venue is a lovely vibe.
100 good people,
That's
because
the thing.
those people want to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And and it's that kind of. It has that moment where, like, there was 60 in here. I think it was 65 on the first one. And the atmosphere was unreal. That was 65 people all at the front dancing, though. And it was lovely. So it doesn't matter how big the venue is. Like, you can play festivals, you can play clubs, you can play whatever. But if everyone's having a good time in the one space you're in, doesn't matter.
You don't want to be anywhere else, do you?
No, quite.
Obviously, you've explained it's an 18+, but what's the sort of ages of the people who came to the first one?
I would go probably mid 30s to sort of late 40s.
And I guess that's the sort of generation that obviously we've all been through the COVID pandemic, but obviously there was sort of those few years where we just couldn't get out, you couldn't go clubbing, couldn't do anything like that. And I guess now that stuff is opening up, people can't or don't want to go out as much as they used to. It's not like we're going out every Friday night or whatever anymore. No. So when they're going out, they want to go out to somewhere where they know is a safe space, good vibes, and all the rest of it.
Yeah, so they're picking that one thing for like the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So it's making sure that's the one thing they're going to go to, which is the hardest part. Promoting events is always the hardest bit. Like, you spend your day doing it, but
it's one of those things, isn't it? As soon as you finish promoting the first one, you're then starting on the next one.
Literally Saturday morning, I was like, "Oh god, here we go again." Press.
Yeah,
But
and I guess it's going to carry on like that, isn't it? Until you get to the point where people are sort of already
yeah,
buying tickets for like next month's before
yeah,
this month's. In which case, once you sell out, then you don't need to worry, do you?
exactly.
You know, but it's a new event and it's going to do well, I think. You know, so tell us about some of the events you got coming up. Obviously, you got us in February. So yeah, tell us about who's on that one.
We've got yourself. We've got Will Class,
Yep.
and myself, and then we've got the awesome Ben Kavanagh artist, who's got some amazing pieces, and he's just been doing some stuff over in Brighton as well lately.
Yep.
So that's gonna be good fun. The March one, we've got Whirlwind D coming down doing a DJ set.
Nice.
That should be good fun because that's
Nice.
also. I'm just going to drop in. It is my 50th birthday that weekend as well.
Okay. All
So
right. So people
it's a
should
must come to event.
try and come along. Okay.
Drag yourself down.
Yeah. I'll get the date off you and see what's going on that week.
Without doubt.
And then April, you've said you've got Fade and Tweaks coming down.
Fade and Tweaks and Colm again coming back for more.
Nice. Yeah, Colm. I spoke to Colm. Colm's an interesting one. I met him when Pete Brady came and played in Brighton.
Yep.
And I met Colm there, and then we sort of stayed in touch. And then he was keen to put on some stuff, and then that's where we launched the sort of We Love 45s live events. But that was off the back of Fade saying, "I'm coming down to Brighton. It's my birthday. Any chance we can spin somewhere?" And then Colm got the Druids in Brighton. And then it started, and we're celebrating our year anniversary again in Brighton on Saturday night. Fade was saying we should do it. I think we are. All being good, I think we can do it at the Windmill in Brighton on Saturday night. But it's interesting again how these things build.
Yeah.
And it's about the vibes, isn't it? All of them, and hanging out with the other DJs, and it's just a connection.
Yeah, it is. You know, we're growing that kind of connection every time. I mean, I've been lucky to meet some great people, even through like the Good Vibes Only Festival. Like I've met some great artists like Grizzle over in Bristol and people like that. You know, and just be able to sort of bounce ideas off these people.
Yeah,
you know, there's some great people coming. I've got Sam Redmore coming down in June.
Yeah, I saw that. That's good.
I mean, Sam's going to be, going to tear it up, to be fair, down here. It'd be amazing. I can't wait to see that.
He's another one who's literally just started on Twitch. I think last Monday, I think he started.
Now all you see is Sam Redmore on Twitch.
Remix king. But I mean, I've got 45s, you know, and he's brilliant, you know. I love it, and it's great to see these people coming on to this platform, and sort of who haven't necessarily been doing it before. But it is good that we can connect on that level as well. So, and I assume you said you're sort of building up. You might not want to say any more about the rest of the year, but you've got some more events coming up. What about other events that you're playing at?
I am playing. So this weekend there is a bar in Worthing opening up called Block. There's a Block in Brighton.
Yeah.
Ben from Block is putting on like a whole weekend party to launch Block Worthing, and I'm playing on the Sunday afternoon.
Nice.
4 till 7, funk soul, bit of old school hip hop, digital set.
Yeah.
25% off food and £5 Bloody Marys.
Sounds dangerous.
That's not a bad event.
It sounds pretty dangerous, but yeah. No, that's great. I mean, we did a We Love 45s event at Block in Brighton. But it was the weekend on the Sunday. Do you remember the pub? Not the pub, the hotel, the Albion, burnt down in Brighton. It was that weekend. So basically, all the roads were shut. Basically, no one was going out because there was like dust everywhere. And it was just, you know, we had a few people in, but it just didn't quite kick off because everyone was that. But yeah, I mean, that was a great venue. So I'm interested to see, because I've been following to see what they're going to do in Worthing. And again, it's great to see another venue opening, hopefully for a while, you know, because that again's got food as well, hasn't it?
So you got, I think it's 5 or 6 different food vendors inside the whole building as well. So it's kind of like a big, what was the bottom floor of a department store.
Nice.
It looks, I mean, I walked past it the other day. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
So it should be good fun. I think it's going to be a bit of a messy weekend for them, but it's a good way to launch a brand, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's good that, you know, there's more venues, like we were saying earlier, some venues are shutting down, but it's nice to see that there are some coming through. And I guess it means that. Go on.
Sorry. To be fair, all Worthing's got is bars.
Yeah.
We haven't got any shops. It's every 5
Yeah.
minutes there's a new bar. It's great. You know, we've got level 1, which is the outdoor space looking over the beach. You know,
Yeah.
I can't wait for that to be open again, because I was DJing there last year, and that was like a beautiful place to DJ at.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
almost like one night I played down there. It was almost like Ibiza. It was bizarre. Like 30 degrees.
Well,
and
yeah,
sun.
I suppose if you don't look at the pebbles, you just look
Yeah,
at the
you
sea.
can't see the pebbles from the top. You see, you're
Yeah, yeah,
looking straight out.
yeah. And if it's a nice sunny day, it does look good on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, man.
Obviously we'll chat some more in a minute. After the show ends, and obviously I'll see you in Brighton. We got. And sorry, not Brighton, Worthing. Benny's saying he bumped into Ben and he didn't want to open in Jan, but had to as part of the joint venture. I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? You know, opening at the time.
Hence why that's probably why he booked me. He didn't want to open, but I'll book you anyway.
That's cool. Is there anyone you sort of want to have a look to see who's streaming that we can raid into? I've got an idea who might be streaming, but I just need to check. You know, have you got anyone you want to shout out before we go?
Well, number one, Always Balling. Excellent brand, Unreal t-shirts, and I love their stuff. I love the vibe of their little brand, Unreal. Beats Needs Cafe, Audio Active in Worthing. Everyone that I've spoken about, and anyone in my family and anyone of my friends, they all know who they are. I'm not going to go through 1,000 names, but thank you. You're all stars.
And it's amazing, like you say. You know, it's great to be able to shout these people out and recognise what they've done to help you on your journey, isn't it? You know, because it's more than one person, isn't it? You know, it's part of this, and we talk about it a lot. It's community, isn't it? You build communities, build friendships, and sort of it takes you in different directions that you wouldn't otherwise get to, which is the exciting and interesting thing about being in music, I think.
So true, man.
Definitely. Well, it's been amazing. We're going to go and see, he's live at the moment. We're going to go and see Sam Tweaks, as we've been talking about him. And thank you everyone for watching. I'm back tomorrow night for Jazz Wednesdays, my debut on that raid train, so it should be interesting. But yeah, take it easy, everyone else, and I'll speak to you in a second after that. If you hold on there.